Welcome back to Confinement Stories. I hope you are all well and keeping safe. Today, I just had a conversation with one of my family members who lives in the south of France. So as you can imagine, we talk about food a lot, what we can do to adapt to current circumstance, and the importance of wearing funny masks after this. So, my dear uncle, let me begin with two important questions. Where are you and how are you doing?
Well, as you know, I'm in Aix-en-Provence, in the south of France, in my flat. It's a lovely area. A bit cloudy today, a bit windy, but, lovely, nice. And how am I? Well, I've just, I think it's 43 days of confinement now, 43 days.
43, that's a lot.
Yeah. 43 days of confinement because I have a journal, which I write every day. I write all my stories of the day. And, to be honest, I'm a bit fed up with it. About bloody time it stops, especially, for a while we were like floating in kind of an unknown world. We didn't know when it would stop. We didn't know what was going on, really. And now they've announced a date, which would be 11th of May, will be end of confinement in certain forms. So all of a sudden, we want this to happen. You can feel there is tension. I was in town yesterday, and you can feel people are already coming out and just say, "Yeah, let's do it." So basically, life is okay. Life is fine. I'm in a lovely part of the world, but I'd like things to move on now.
You just mentioned a moment ago that there were clouds in the sky. I was led to believe that it's always sunny in Provence.
Well, we've been dying for rain. Actually, we've had very, very little rain. It's been raining a couple of days last week and this week. Apparently, it's going to be raining tomorrow, which is lovely. We need that. Then it's beautiful. It's green. It's blooming. And but then after that, the next week's going to be warm, and then we just the problem with Provence, we shift from basically cold to hot, and from hot to cold. We don't really have a spring. We don't really have a fall. It's like, either you freeze or you sweat.
Just 2 seasons a year.
Yeah.
On British TV, as you can imagine, Provence is featured a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Dordogne and sometimes...
Well, Dordogne is not Provence, by the way.
No. But and they always talk about, well, all the programs when it's about Provence, it's about the food. Now I know that you like to cook a lot. Have you done much cooking whilst in confinement or not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's actually quite. I have to be careful because I love cooking. I have plenty of time to cook, so it's a great period of time to put on weight. Now, actually, it's very funny because people talk about the food in Provence, but Provence was never a gastronomic region. Provence was a poor man's region. Food in Provence is not that good. The original Provençal food is very basic, very simple. It was a poor man's food. And if you see films like Manon des Sources, Jean de Florette, people would kill for water. Simple as that. They had, they barely had enough food to go by. It's if you go to Dordogne, the southwest of France, there was plenty of food, or you go to Lyon or Auvergne. But Provence was always a poor region, very poor. So, but now, of course, things have changed. But if you think about Provençal food, it's very basic. It's actually very basic food.
Well, just as we don't work for the tourism board, you just told us that half of the year it's freezing and the food is rubbish.
It's not exactly what I said. No, but if you look for a true Provençal cuisine, you don't have that much. It's
So what happened then? Did they then start to get influence from Italy, from North
yeah.
Africa, and places like this?
Italy, definitely, because there've been several waves of immigrants from Italy starting in the 18th century, and they've sort of spread,
Which may have included our
which
ancestors.
included your great grandmother and my grandmother, of course. Spaniards from the other side, coming from the other side, and then of course we have a strong influence from North Africa as well. So basically, I would say, the typical Provençal food would be pizza and couscous. I know they're going to hate me for this, but still.
No, but an interesting. I mean, I love visiting. Not in the summer; it's too hot for us. I mean,
Exactly.
as you know, we come from Bordeaux primarily, or Brittany. I've moved to the northeast of England, which is a couple of hours away from Scotland. So if I take a flight from Newcastle and leave, it's maybe about 10 degrees. And then I land in Marseille. Is it Marseille usually the airport?
Yeah, would be Marseille.
Where it's, reaching the 30s is just absolutely unbearable. You mentioned, obviously, a moment ago, 43 days, which is a staggering number. Do you remember when you first heard what was happening, and what was your first impression? What was your reaction when the news broke out in France?
Well, we heard about the crisis in China first. We heard about the fact that something was going on there. There was a new, epidemics or pandemics or whatever you want to call it, and they started getting French citizens who lived in China, getting them back to France, and they would put them in quarantine, in hotels. Actually, the first flight, they landed in Marseille. There were something like 40 people who were put in a hotel on the coast, and they stayed there for 2 weeks. I think at the time we thought, okay, this is in China. What the hell, we're not concerned, nothing to worry about. And then slowly it spread, and then there was the outbreak in Italy. The first serious one was Italy. So these things were getting serious because all of a sudden, you realize that this is going to impact, our activities. And for me, actually, at the time, I was, I'm a great fan of rugby, as you know. And there was the Six Nation tournament. And then they announced that the Ireland-Italy game was cancelled. And I thought, oops, that's bad news. And then clients started canceling jobs. Things were getting, people were getting worried. There was a bit of panic at the start, and especially because information was contradictory at times. And then all of a sudden, all my jobs got canceled. That clients after clients calling saying it's either canceled or postponed or delayed or whatever. And then just one day we were told that, stay home. So it's been a gradual process, but initially, I don't think we were able to grasp the severity of it, and certainly not the speed at which it would spread, and the impact, the amazing impact it now has.
I have to say, I mean, this is probably the first one that I'm very aware of. Maybe in the past, when we had SARS and the other things, I must have been much younger and somehow it passed me by. But you're right about the speed. It's just been like really quite staggering. But perhaps it's normal speed. I can't comment on that. I mean, just for our viewers and listeners, can you remind us about your profession? I know you run your own business, and obviously, like everybody else around the world, has been impacted by the pandemic.
Yeah, talking about just back to the speed of this crisis. We're experiencing a great plague, like very much like in the past, except that in the past, great plagues would travel through continents by other, caravans or boats or whatever, would sort of hit a place, destroy the place, and move on to another, to another location. Now, this is the first global instant Great Plague.
Because of our travel, do you think?
Because of our travel, because of everything. All of a sudden, it's spreading within a month and a half, 2 months, all over the world. In, let's say, 3 or 4 centuries ago, this would have spread over 10 or 15 or 20 years. Okay, that's what I would say basically the difference. Now, back to what I do. Well, I'm a translator. I'm a translator and conference interpreter, and I also do, some teaching or seminars on communication and, business language. I have my own business. I used to be self-employed. Now I've created a company for tax reasons, and it's easier for me. I work for large corporations. I have major clients, great accounts, and also work for conference centers. I'm specialized in medical and scientific translation. A lot in the medical field. And how I've adapted myself to the crisis? Well, basically, you just wait for the storm to pass. And that's, I've got a couple of jobs. Yesterday I just got an order for a training course in forestry, actually, which brings me back to my youth in a way. But otherwise, yeah, it's very, very, we're impacted very slowly. And again, the problem is that we don't know where we're going.
Yeah. Have your client, have you done yet anything via video calls, or that's something that they left to one side for now?
I've done one, which I didn't like at all because there was a problem of quality of sound and images. So it's very, very annoying when you have to do simultaneous translation and you can barely hear the speakers because some of them didn't even have their microphones on, and they forgot to put the microphones on because we had actually 8 different locations. So we asked speakers when they were not actually talking to cut off their mics, otherwise we would get all the discussions. We had 8 different sites, and so you got one guy talking in Beirut, and then you got the one in Cairo who's sifting through his papers, and the one in Morocco who is actually having coffee talking with the secretary. So it's total chaos. So we said, please, could we have only one speaker at the time, so one microphone at a time? But then people would take the floor and forget to turn on the mics. So you miss the beginning of the phrase, so it's so nice, it was total chaos, and we need when you do simultaneous translation, you need a visual, you have to see the speaker, body language is essential when you communicate, that as much as I do. So if you see just a face, which is quite pixelized or slightly blurry with all of a sudden streaks of light going through it, and you can barely hear the person, and you hear another guy in another location in Washington who's actually asking his secretary to get him a writing pad, doesn't work.
For that kind of things you need literally like a producer, someone who's in charge of mics and everything else, because if you leave it to the participant and attendees. It happened to us actually. We were having a business networking, and then one lady saw, I'm sorry, I need to say to something, but she forgot to switch off the microphone, and we heard the argument with her husband, we heard the school lesson for the kid, we heard the dog barking as we're trying to continue with the meeting. And then she came back, and we all had to burst into laughter and say, "You've missed nothing because you've not been able to say a word to each other." But I hope your husband is okay.
Well, at least it was something decent, because I've had a situation like that where, but it was not a video conference. But a long time ago, it was a conference, official conference, and one of the keynote speakers left the room to go to the toilet. He had a clip-on microphone, and he left it on. So. Trust me.
Do you know, I always asked, if I need to go, on the rare occasion, I asked the AV guys, is it off? Is it that properly off? I need to go. And so when we talked about, video, have you heard in the news any other little disasters, perhaps happening to celebrities or, public figures? It's always funny.
Yeah, I know it's always funny. No, I haven't actually. Well, it's right now I'm concentrating on personal stuff. As you know, I'm writing a new novel. I'm doing stuff like that. I'm not follow. I listen to radio. The the news in the morning and a bit in the evening, just a couple of minutes just to see what are the main points. Then I would go on the internet if I need further information. But no, I haven't heard about any sort of funny or situations where people will end up in a situation of ridicule, or and I'm not. I've had a couple of situations like that, and I know it's very, very unpleasant. When it happens to you, it's very.
And people have got to be careful, but
you have to be careful. So I don't laugh at people because I know this could happen to me in the next conference. So having been the victim once, and in a very, very annoying situation, and no, I don't. And right now, honestly, celebrities are not my cup of tea anyway. I'm not interested in politicians. That just piss me off right now. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky. We used to listen to the press conference on the BBC with Denis, but eventually, I mean, if you imagine, it's not been as long for us in the UK. We took our time to get on with the lockdown, but for now, so many weeks later, I'm losing track of time and days. I found them just far too long and far too repetitive. And I think
exactly.
on both sides, journalists and the politicians, there's a strange game going on. So like you, I wait for it to pass and then look at the headlines and go, right, that's me informed for today. Can we go back to, you mentioned the journaling, which I didn't know you did, so is that something that you've done for a while? And at this moment in time, is it you find it very helpful to
journals?
Yeah.
Say this?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, these are all the notebooks I've been filling for years now. Sorry, for years. This is, I started writing journals when I went to Africa the first time. That was in 1971. See, so I think you were 2 or 3 at the time. Yeah.
I was 2, yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. So, this, I do that when there's a special situation. I will always take a notebook with me. If I go on a trip to a country I've never visited before, for example, I will always have my camera and a notebook, and I will take note, keep papers, clips, restaurant bills, bus tickets, things, and write. Things happen, what I've seen, what I've observed, what surprised me, what I found disconcerting, whatever. And so for this, when this confinement started, I thought, okay, well, we're going to go through something very special. All of a sudden, you got 3.5 billion people stuck at home, either being unemployed or having to work like slave. There was a very interesting program yesterday on French radio about what they call the new digital capitalism, which is just as brutal as the former industrial capitalism of the 19th century in many, many ways. So I thought, okay, this is going to be a strange situation. Everybody's concerned. I'm losing jobs not because I'm stupid or bad, but simply because everybody's losing jobs. So it's not me. So let's look at the situation from a sort of a wider, with a wider angle. And but it's what's interesting in situations like this is examine the wider dimension. Like people are confined in Argentina, in South Africa, or in Lagos, in New York, and have little details specific to my life here. So it's trying to merge or combine the global aspect of that crisis and the little details and impacts it has on me every day. That's what I like doing. For example, anyway, I'll come back to that. Yeah.
No, and I think strangely, whilst you and I didn't talk about it, as you know, I explained to you, that was the inspiration for this video series, where I just knew there were things happening at a very personal level around the world that would give us an insight into humanity that main media are just missing out altogether. And I think with the power of the internet and things we can do now. But so, I mean, are you able to share some of those observations, for the last few weeks? What's happening around you, or what you've heard, some of your contacts around the world?
Well, contacts with, for example, I have contacts with some of my colleagues in foreign countries. Yesterday I had a lovely message from a colleague in Morocco. She sent me photos of her being confined in Morocco, cooking with her aunt and mother, which was quite lovely. She sent me a little video, which was very friendly. What I've observed is this. People, for example, you go to a shop, people have to queue, okay? People have to queue and keep a distance. Now, you have two ways of doing it. Either you line up, so you see the back of the person who's in front of you, or you can actually stagger your position and start talking to people in front of you and behind you in a sort of friendly manner. Some people are very strict. They don't want to talk to you. If you look at them, they put the mask on and 2 hands and glasses, they're, in case you're just sending them, microbes. And other people are just very friendly. And actually, there is a new form of, kind of friendliness. People say hello that they didn't do before. For example, I live in a very nice part of the city. There is a little street leading to the town, and Aix is a lovely city because you can actually have a village life in a town. Once you've worked out your ways and things, you have a village life. I used to walk across people who would say hello, and but now with this crisis, people stop and say, "Oh, hello, how are you? Are you going through the confinement?" And they, and all of a sudden there is a new conviviality taking place that did not exist before. So, and at the same time, there are people when they see you, they move 5 steps aside because they fear you're going to give them the plague. So it's very, very interesting to watch. To observe this. I have a mask which I don't wear in the street. I wear it only when I'm in the shop, when I can't avoid being close to people, like in certain shops. Otherwise, I don't wear the mask. I don't think it. Plus, it's I don't like something that blocks me from breathing or anything, or smiling at people.
Yeah.
Because you don't see. Maybe people are just putting faces at you under the mask, or and you don't know.
But I think, I mean, in the UK, we've heard that, when they do decide to go for the de-confinement, a new word. I never heard the word confinement in my life ever, nor lockdown or all those things. But talking of masks, I mean, another passion of yours, which we'll explore together with book writing, is photography. Mm-hmm. And very recently, you published some of your work, and for our viewers, I'm going to share this on screen now, and I'm going to ask Lionel to comment on this masterpiece. For those of you who are watching it or listening to as a podcast, there's a picture of my uncle wearing a mask, and with the sign, advertising space available, and you sharing obviously details. So you'll understand that I need to do my work as a journalist. So first question is, did you have any success with this very good offer? And what was the reaction generally when you had the audacity to walk into the shops wearing this?
Okay, well, basically, no, so far the business not been very good on that line. Now, the funny reaction is this: people see something written on the mask, but they can't quite read it, so they get closer to you. So it's kind of a 2-stage effect. So they get closer to see what's written, and then they see, this advertising space for rent. So they laugh. They start laughing. So it's actually a very nice way to to establish a contact. And actually, when I walk into shops, all the shops owners love it. They really laugh. And it's actually it's a very nice way to start a conversation with lovely people. So. Nice way to engage socially. No, in terms of business, no, it doesn't work. Don't dream about it.
But
It's
I think to your point, your point, we should consider having fun with it. I'm thinking about the children as well. We should let children have funny masks to wear.
Exactly. And I was, for example, the other day I was talking to a lady in a chemist shop, and she said, because I wanted to buy a mask, and she said, you must wait for the new mask. I say, yeah, I'm waiting because I've heard that 3 major lingerie names, that is Obad, La Perla, and I can't remember, at least Charmel, I think, will start making masks. And I said maybe they will use recycled bras to make masks. And I said, I'd be lovely to wear no bad or la perla mask. That would be great. I'd be quite happy to do that, to have my nose in that. So when you talk to people, first of all, they don't know how to react, but then they think it's quite funny. And I said, I think people are just not funny with their mask. I wish they'd be more creative and just like, okay, we're in a crisis. We have to wear this. Let's make fun of it. Let's stop being dramatic about it. You see some people, they wear their mask and they're like just about to die. Come on,
Yeah, I think we have to, if we can make somebody else smile, I think,
exactly. That was the idea of the mask, I make people smile, and they all say, oh, it's a great idea. I say, well, do it. Do something else.
Talking of shopping, obviously back in the UK, some of the small traders have adapted. They're doing an amazing job around, their customer service delivery, the way they've sometime a little better than the bigger ones. Have you seen elements of that where small traders have also adapted and perhaps offered a different service?
Yeah, they offer some services, but in different ways. Most of them, they do, they do the same job, but in different ways. For example, to get a cafe, in France, the cafe is an art of, so it's a way of life. And cafes are, closed. So some of them actually do a takeaway system, but in a sort of a, friendly way. A lot of food delivery services provided, but basically, they just do the same stuff, but in a different manner. They adapt to the situation. And there is actually quite an unfair situation because in France, we have a chain of stores called Monoprix, which would be very much like, I don't know what in the UK would be. Monoprix would be maybe what are the food stores? It would be very much like Selfridges. Not Selfridges, I can't remember. Where you can get food and you can get clothes and you can get stationery.
Maybe Marks and Spencer's?
Sort of Marks and Spencer, but on a smaller scale. Okay? So all these shops were not, had to close down. So if you sell clothes, shirts, you have to close down. But shops like Monoprix can be open. Okay, so it's very unfair because they can sell clothes, they can sell stationery, they can sell kitchenware, they can sell food, and all the other shops that would sell those things separately cannot open. Which I find, not nice, especially because once you're in Monoprix, nobody controls the distance between you and the other, shoppers or staff or whatever. So anyway, that's what makes people quite unhappy, and I can understand that as well.
Oh, completely, yeah. If we go back to books in general, I know you shared to me in the past that it's both a curse and a blessing that you inherited from your parents, my grandparents. When did it start, the idea of maybe I should try writing my own book and see where that takes me? Do you remember that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it started with I started right, as I said, I write notebook, fill in notebooks with stories like that. And then it was about 8 years ago. I had ideas, and I was very much involved in photography. I'm involved. I do photography. I worked a lot in photography, and one day I was asked to write a text about an exhibition, the work of a photographer I like very much. She's a very good friend. She said, "Could you write something about my photos, my work?" So I did that. It was a 2-page little thing for the exhibition, and it was I had nice comments. People said, that was lovely, well written, and then one day something happened very funny. I wear hats because I wear hats in winter, nice, lovely, warm hats. And one day I was going to a job in Compiègne, north of Paris, in Picardy. It was winter. It was freezing cold, and I had this beautiful black velvet hat that my sons had offered me for Christmas, and I forgot it on the train. I left it in the train. And I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I got off the train. So then, shit, my hat, train gone, my hat's gone. And I was furious. Went to a shop, bought a silly thing, don't look stupid. And then on the way back, I thought, okay, how's the hat feeling? So I wrote a short story, told by the hat, and it started by saying, that idiot, he forgot me. And I wrote that short story, and the hat is finally found and given to an old man, whatever. And I showed that to a friend of mine who is in books, and he said, it's a lovely story. He said, it's really nice, it's quite fun, you should try writing more. So I went on and on and on, writing short stories, started with short stories. And then one day, I came with the idea of a novel, major novel, and I was very ambitious, that was, I worked on it for about 2 years, and I ended up with a 651-page book, which I submitted to a couple of publishers, so they all got a fright, when they saw the slab, except one, a friend of mine who is a publishing house, and he said, this is a brilliant book. He says, but nobody will accept a first book, 650 pages. Nobody will do that. And so he sent it to another publisher, my actual publisher, and she said, it's a lady, and she said, I love it, but again, we can't publish that as a first book. But she says, there is a plot in that book that would make a great thriller. So can you extract that from the book? So from a 650-page book, I had to extract a story that was inside it, which is the first book I wrote, published, which is a hell of a job, because you have to remember.
I can just imagine, yeah.
You have to remember who you removed, who you left, make sure that interactions are still valid. That is, all of a sudden there won't be a reference to a guy who's no longer in the story. So this took me about 6 months. Send it back to the publisher. She said, oh, great, but why did you remove that character? Because he was really good, you should put it back in. So I have to go back to get back the character inside the book. It was hell, but it took me about 3.5 years to get the first book. And then it's like, that's it. You're on it, and you start writing. And then stories come all the time. It's
So what has been the impact of the lockdown? Has it been a positive impact, and you have more time, but do you find that because of the confinement you're not as creative, or on the contrary, you're able to come up with good storylines and that kind of things? What's been the impact of being stuck at?
Do you mean as a writer?
Yeah.
Oh, as a writer, it's great because I have plenty of time to do research. For example, the novel I'm writing now, I'm doing a lot of research on that, which is quite funny. I've told you the topic about this guy who's hired as a ghostwriter for a sexual,
dating site.
Dating site. So he's
for open-minded people.
Fairly open-minded people, and he's hired as a ghostwriter for women on the dating site. So it's kind of very funny, but I have to do a lot of research for that. It's interesting. I tell you, I
hope you don't use Google for those research.
Actually, I do in some cases, and which means that then I'm bombarded with some really interesting invitations. That's actually, I've had some quite funny. Recently, I was on a job. I was sitting in a translation booth with a colleague who was at the World Bank in Paris. And I had my laptop open, I was doing some research for the conference we were doing. And then I had advertisement for lingerie and dating site popping up on the screen. And my colleague, looking at me like, you're having a good time, basically. So, but I don't care. It's fine. It's part of the story. Yeah. No. Confinement is good. You've got plenty of time. The problem being to establish a discipline, work rules. You have to make sure that you do so many hours of work a day. Otherwise, you get all scattered and you lose track of the story. So I usually write in the afternoon, start around 3-4 o'clock till about 8-9 o'clock in the evening. In the morning, I just do things I have to do, and I try to structure my work.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a while actually to come up with my weekly planner. You know,
Yeah.
like you, my week was dictated by client bookings and assignments, and it took me a couple of times to kind of organize my week and find a rhythm and what am I
Mhm.
best to do in the morning compared to the
Yeah.
lunchtime to afternoon and so on. But it's been quite liberating because I've been able to do other things such as this project. Now, listen, sadly, our time together is nearly at its
Sure.
end, but before we go, I'd like to take part in a little fun quiz. Don't worry,
Mm.
these are not difficult questions, that kind of things. But I thought it'd be interesting to know how people feel. So, yeah, we are all hoping that come May, stroke the end of May, we can start to go back to some of the elements of our normal life. So let's assume that we're in that position. Question number one: we are obviously now freer and we can travel. You have a date night. Money is not an issue. What would be the meal that you order and where?
A date night meal in. Okay. Would that be next?
It can be anywhere in
Okay.
France.
Okay. Could be. So probably that date night would be in Toulouse with my girlfriend. So we would probably go to a restaurant we know in Toulouse, which we like very much. And I would have oysters. She would not because she doesn't like it. She would probably have foie gras. I would have the foie gras as well. So I'll have the oysters and the foie gras. Yeah. Then we probably, actually, I would kill for a good cassoulet right now. I mean, cholesterol, like solid cholesterol, serious stuff, like,
Mm.
sausages and duck and beans, you know, come on, let's have it, And then some pungent cheese,
Yes.
something pretty nasty, you know, chemical warfare cheese, I call them, It's and then probably an ice cream or something like that, and then good
Good
wine
wine.
from the
Are you
southwest. Yes,
are you a red or white wine kind of
good
guy?
red, red,
Yeah. No,
red.
absolutely. Particularly with the cassoulet, just to
Yeah,
protect the
cassoulet.
arteries.
Yeah. I would have probably a glass of white wine with the oysters and the foie gras, of course. And although the two wines would be different, but then I would have probably white wine to start with, and then I'll have the red. Yeah, and finished with a nice Baz Armagnac,
Mm.
as an alcohol. Yeah, that's great. A
Yeah.
spirit. That's
You're making
great.
me
Yeah.
think. I think I have a big tin. Actually, it was a present from Patrice, a massive tin of cassoulet, which I've been keeping for a special day. But I need to check the date. I've had it for a while now. Although tins,
Yeah.
they keep for a while, don't they?
Yeah, they keep for a while. You should look. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's true.
Okay, next question. So this year is a big birthday for you.
Yep.
Yeah, coming up in June. So again, money is not, an issue. If you could invite a musical artist or a music band, to play at your birthday, who would that be?
Jazzy,
Yes.
something jazzy, but soft. Not free jazz, nothing. Some cool jazz. Some cool jazz. Yeah, would be kind of a jazzy thing. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
If you could have a video call, now that you've become more familiar with this technology, if you could have a video call with you know a famous person or celebrity, who would that be?
John le Carré.
And why?
I love his books. He's my inspiration. He's a genius.
Okay. Once you can travel again and you can go anywhere around the world, where would you like to go?
Actually, I would love to go back to Venice before the crowd comes back,
Yeah.
to have Venice to myself. I'd love that.
Yeah. And I
I've done
can.
photos in Venice. I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just walk the city. It's just fantastic. It's another world.
I can just see that. Let me finish then with this question. So this will come to pass, what we are going through. It is an historical event, which you are obviously recording and so on. What would you like your memory to be of what we are going through? If you were to look back in a year, 2 years' time, what would you like your memory to be?
I have absolutely no idea. You know, if there is one thing you cannot control is your memory. You know, your memory is not a block. Your memory is scattered in your brain, is scattered in sort of remote, you know. Have you seen the film The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is exactly that. Your memory is scattered all around your brain. It's not, you don't have a file called memory with different, you know, dossiers. That's
I
not the
do.
way it works.
I do.
No, you don't. That's what you think. That's what you think, but you don't actually, you know. So I don't know what you know, recently I was thinking about my life in Africa. And you realize that you don't get, for example, I don't have a file about Madagascar. I don't have a file about Zaire in the jungle. I have pieces coming, you know, different pieces at different times. There is no hierarchy. There is no time order. It's just like things come up. So I don't know what will come out of this, what I will remember of this. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea.
That's quite all right. And we're not going to blame it on your age. It's just, you know, the way the mind works.
I shall remember that.
And finally, I understand that at the weekend you get together with your brothers and sisters. You have a virtual aperitif.
Yeah.
Any reason why none of us are invited to that?
Call your dad. He's the leader.
He's the organizer, is he?
Yeah, he's the big boss. Call your father. Ask him. Yeah.
Well, listen, Lionel, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. And fascinating. I wanted to kind of, you know, get that Provence perspective, you know, from you as well, for people around the world who are united, strangely, in isolation. So you take good care of yourself. I hope to speak to you very, very soon.
Sure.
Bye-bye for now.
It's been a pleasure. Bye.